The depot outside Reims was a study in controlled chaos. A sea of olive drab, the rumble of deuce-and-a-half trucks. Master Sergeant Henry Grange, the quartermaster, ruled this kingdom of crates and carbines with a ledger book and a scowl that could stop a charging panzer, and a fanatical devotion to Regulation AR 302210, supply procedures in a theater of operations. A fresh batch of replacements had arrived, wide-eyed and shivering in the French autumn chill. Grange stood on a crate, barking at them like a drill sergeant. You will draw kit by the numbers. You will sign Form 317 in duplicate. You will treat Army property with the respect due to the United States Treasury. Later, processing the paperwork in his stiflingly neat tent, his clerk, Corporal Finch, spoke up. Sarge, the lieutenant from the 101st, was here again. For the extra socks. Their guys are in the line in the Ardennes. Feet are rotting off. Grange didn't look up from his form. Request denied. Section C, subsection 2. Footgear allotment per man is clearly stipulated. They have their allotment. But Sarge, the regulations are not suggestions, Corporal. They are the architecture of this army. Without them, we are a mob. Requisition? Grange asked. Lost in an artillery strike on our aid station. Then I have no record of your need. No record, no issue. See Section A4 of. The medic didn't wait for the citation. He just turned and walked away, a man too tired for anger. That night, a freezing rain pattered on the tent canvas. Grange was alone, reviewing his ledger by the light of a single bulb. His world was perfect, balanced, every issue accounted for, every I dotted in accordance with the manual. Then his eye caught an entry from the previous week, 200 wool blankets, issued to 3rd Infantry Division. He'd processed it himself. But the 3rd ID was hundreds of miles south, near Strasbourg. The request had come by a mud-spattered runner with proper authorization. It had been efficient. A cold that had nothing to do with the rain seeped into his bones. He pulled the carbon copy of the requisition. The signature was a scrawl. The unit stamp was smudged. He hadn't checked. He'd been seduced by the correctness of the forms, not the truth behind them. He thought of the 101st men with no socks, the medic with no plasma, or a deserter because the paperwork was in order. The neat columns of numbers in his ledger suddenly looked like headstones. The next morning, he was a changed man. He found the medic's unit. He loaded a jeep himself, a shocking breach of protocol, with cases of plasma, sulfa drugs, and morphine. He drove to the field hospital, ignoring the stunned looks, and began unloading. Consider it a logistical audit, he grunted to the head surgeon. Then he found the 101st supply officer. He didn't ask for a form. He opened a crate of brand-new heavy wool socks. These fell off a truck, he said, his voice low. A shame. Better in your foxholes than on a manifest. Back at the depot, Corporal Finch stared. Sarge, the forms, the regulations. Grange looked at the mountain of perfect paperwork on his desk. Then he looked out at the muddy road leading east toward the fighting. The regulation, Finch, he said, his voice a new kind of steady, says we support the soldier. Sometimes the form does that. Sometimes... He picked up a stack of pristine form, 1-2Bs, and dropped them deliberately into a barrel of rainwater. Sometimes the form gets in the way. My job isn't to protect the paper. It's to get the socks to the feet. He turned back to his kingdom of crates. The scowl was gone, replaced by a fierce, focused intensity. The war had finally found Master Sergeant Grange. Not in a foxhole, but in the space between a rulebook and a dying man's need. He would still need triplicates. But from that day on, he understood they were a means, not an end. His new mission was to bend the impeccable architecture of the army, just enough to let a little humanity in.